Hey, it's Dave. We're back doing errors again. I know it took forever to get this second episode out. After finding a few more errors in the first episode, we figured out that there's around 60 of them. And that's just in episode 1, so can't wait to figure out how many are in episode 2. I'd also like to take this time to give a shout out to the people in the Discord who helped me find all these, especially these two users right here. They put in work. I really appreciate the dedication, and these videos probably wouldn't happen without them. Now, as I said in the last video, but some people just didn't catch, we're covering more than just animation errors. We're also covering continuity errors as well. Basically stuff that doesn't involve, like, the writing. And for the 100th time, animation errors are not the biggest issue with High Guardian Spice. There are tons of other issues that matter way more. I'm just doing these videos for fun. Alright, let's get into it. Right from the jump, there's an error within the first 3 seconds of the episode. The top of this dome originally had glass in the last episode, but it's missing here. These girls' hands are just straight up clipping through their skirts. Ghost girls. Rosemary typically only has 3 buttons on her shirt, but suddenly she gains a 4th one. We need to take a second to talk about the whole button thing, because there are so many scenes in which the buttons on people's clothes just change. It happens so often. They shouldn't have added buttons to these things at all, let's be real, it's just become a nightmare. Speaking of buttons, we see Rosemary's buttons are on this side of her, but when she turns around, they suddenly flip-flop. Sage's nail polish is missing for the entirety of this episode. Now, I'm on the fence about whether or not this is an error, because it is consistent that throughout this episode she doesn't have nail polish. I don't think there are any scenes in this one where she has it. But in the last episode she did have it, and in the episode directly after this she also had it. So either she decided that today, the first day of school, she just shouldn't wear it for some reason, or the animators just forgot about it. Considering there are other episodes where they forget to draw her nail polish, I wouldn't be surprised if this was an error. You know, what really proves to me that Amaryllis is the best magician of all time is that in between shots she disappears. Seriously, she's just gone, reduced to atoms. Impressive. Back to buttons again, Parsley's buttons switch sides. Are we absolutely sure these buttons aren't magically enchanted somehow? I can't technically count this face as an animation error, but like, look at it. The well that the Triad create disappears and then reappears immediately in the next shot. You would think they'd pay attention to that well considering it's an important plot point for this episode, but I guess not. This kid's hair blips black for half a second. Jumping back a bit because I'm an idiot and missed this Triad member's belt over here disappears in between shots. At first I just thought it was covered by the railing, but she's standing in the exact same position, so it just disappeared. Wait, so the light source is coming from over here, but her shadow is on that side. What the fuck? Sage's shadow is right, but why is hers? Oh my god. Okay, so this scene where Rosemary's walking through the classroom is like melting my fucking brain. We see that the empty desk is like well away from the door, but when we look behind Rosemary, we see the empty desk is like really close to the door for some reason. Also, there's no posters or wall hangings on this wall, and yet when we look behind Rosemary, they suddenly appear. So I guess this building was made by the same people who made Aloe and Anissa's house. When Dretch appears, there's no chalk on the chalkboard behind her, but then it cuts and then suddenly there's a bunch of writing that I guess was there the whole time. There are no books on Rosemary's desk here, but then suddenly there are books on the desk, but when Dretch's book lands, they disappear again. One thing you'll notice going forward is if there's any time that something is on a table, you gotta pay close attention to that motherfucker. It's gonna vanish right before your eyes. So are any of these students back here gonna get a textbook? No? Okay, hope they like sharing. Look at her tail just go down. That was like mid-cut, dude. Her tail is really fast. Not to mention that in the previous shot it had a little hole here, but then it doesn't in the next shot. There's clearly a bunch of drawing in Rosemary's book, but then it disappears, just in between shots. How did they not catch that? Would it have killed you to draw her turning a page, for the love of God? Or even easier, just have those pages be empty to begin with. Worst of all, you can clearly see more writing in here, even though the pages were shown to be empty literally a shot ago. Unless that's supposed to be her textbook right there, in which case her sketchbook disappeared off the desk. They can't even be consistent in how they're inconsistent. The lava waterfall is shown to be very thick, but a couple shots later it's suddenly super thin for some reason. The doorways here clearly have no stairs, but then suddenly some stairs appear when Parsley shows up. Also, yes, this is the same doorway because the wall hangings are the same. I made a video about this before, but this pigtail hair girl teleports to a completely different class. But I want to go a little bit more in depth here because rewatching this episode, it's actually a whole lot dumber than I realized. Okay, so earlier on, the bell rings and Parsley starts running to her class because she's afraid she's going to be late. Okay, whatever. But then we see the pigtail hair girl walking in the exact same direction towards the blacksmithing class after Parsley has already ran and after Sage and Rosemary have a full-on conversation for a second. And despite the fact that she's walking, not running, and started walking a good bit after Parsley already started running, somehow she makes it to the blacksmithing class first and also has time to get her apron on and start working. So that would have to mean that either this girl can actually teleport or Parsley is just so bad at directions that she managed to get lost. Keep in mind, Parsley is the same girl who knows more about the school than the other girls do, and Sage and Rosemary find their classes just fine on the first day. Without an orientation, mind you. How the fuck they found their classrooms, I don't know. Maybe they're numbered and we just don't see it? Are you really telling me Parsley ran all around the school without asking for directions and somehow managed to be more late than the girl who started casually walking there after the bell rang? I'm thinking too hard about this, let's just keep going. Hey, do you like this kid's earring? Well, too bad, it's gone. Sage clearly has 3 books on her desk, but they all merge together into one super book. And no, she didn't just put the other books away because that book looks nothing like the one she brought in here before. Time's book is to the left of her throughout this entire scene, but then near the end it suddenly switches to be on the right. Also, it's looking like Sage back there took the field of view enhancement potion.
The wide-eye combat potion. Whoa! Oh, wow.
Amaryllis' Terrasphere, which is see-through, can allow us to notice that her thumb has disappeared. I swear, combine that with her disappearing act earlier and she really is the best magician, even without new magic. The other anvils next to Parsley, along with the children around her, vanish into thin air when we cut back to her. This scratch mark on the side of Mossflox's clothing sometimes disappears in certain scenes. Behold, the mysterious floating stairs. I'll tell you, that's one hell of a tourist attraction. What kind of levitation spell you got on that thing? Normally when the buttons disappear it's off screen, but here we can literally see 2 buttons materialize on Snapdragon as he's walking. I knew those fuckers were magic, can't fool me. Parnell's buttons seem to be glitching out too as they appear and disappear mid-run. Looks like Little Miss Pigtail over here is teleporting again. We can see Dretch throw the portals far apart, but in the next shot they're suddenly close together. Oh my god, this poor girl's wrist. Counting all the students in this classroom, we can see that there's 12 of them including Sage, and yet when Sage makes cures for the poison, she only makes 8 of them. Obviously she doesn't need the cure, so that means there should be at least 3 students who don't get a cure. So this could mean one of 2 things. Either A, it was an error, or more morbidly, B, it was actually the fact that some students had a lower tolerance than others, and as a result, dropped dead sooner than expected. I'm not sure which is worse, but if you cure yourself to the point where you have to continue living in the High Guardian Spice world, was it really a cure at all? Also, some of the students go missing in the middle of this classroom, so I guess some of them did die. The wooden dummy on the far left teleports to the other side. Don't fuck up the layering, don't fuck up the layering, don't fuck up— oh, they fucked up the layering. Hey, wanna see a button disappear? This triad member was clearly right next to the other 2, yet in the next shot she has to walk up like she was behind them for some reason. Be careful with those blasts, Triad. You hit Rosemary so hard her buttons disappeared. And the final error, the Triad are clearly not facing the crowd, but then suddenly are facing the crowd, like mid-sentence. Teleportation magic, I guess? Also, I guess this isn't an error, but damn, that guy's tall, right? Like, look at him. So there you go, every animation error in episode 2, or, well, most of them. If there is any we missed, make sure to point it out in the comments down below. So what's the final tally for the number of errors in this episode? Once again, we were counting the changes to people's buttons as errors, so there were a lot of them, and I didn't mention each individual time a person's buttons changed in a scene. But accounting for all of that, there's about 63 errors in episode 2. And you know what that means? Over 100 errors in the first 2 episodes. This show is trying to go for an infinity animation errors any percent speedrun. It's the buttons, man. They change. The buttons keep changing, they never stop changing. I'm gonna have nightmares about those fucking buttons for the rest of my life, do you understand? Well, anyway, this has been Dave, and as a public service announcement, I have to tell you, if you ever see the buttons on your clothing appearing and disappearing randomly, contact the FBI immediately. They're probably gonna mind wipe you, but trust me, you wanna be mind wiped. It's better than learning about this cursed knowledge. See you later.
If your new appearance doesn't please you, you can always come in and yourself. What? In Minecraft, naturally.